I would love to play against Rory and Tiger Woods. If we could use a driver like they do now that hits the ball 50 yards further, no spike marks. Think about what I'm saying. No spike marks on the greens. When we played, there were at least 200 spike marks on every green we played.
His honesty is questionable. Those 4 words carry a weight that most people in golf would rather avoid. But Gary Player has never avoided anything. He is the man who slept in the dunes at St. Andrews in 1955 because he could not afford a hotel room. He came back the next day and practiced until his hands bled. He went on to win 9 major championships across 4 decades. He built his entire identity around discipline, sacrifice, and doing things the right way.
So when Gary Player looks at the modern game and says he sees golfers with no integrity, people stop and listen. He has named 5 of them. He has said it out loud, without flinching, without softening the words. And today we are going through every single one. So who are these 5 men? And why does one of them, a man never caught breaking a rule on camera, still make the cut? That question is going to pull you through everything that follows. Before we get there, hit that hype button and give this video some energy right now. It helps more than you know, and trust me, what is coming earns it. To understand why Player feels the way he does, you need to understand what golf actually is at its foundation. Golf is the only major sport on the planet where the player is also the referee. No VAR, no third umpire, just you, the ball, and your conscience out in the middle of a course. Rule 1.2 of the official rulebook, called the spirit of the game, places the full weight of honesty entirely on the shoulders of the person swinging the club. You call penalties on yourself. You report your own mistakes. You do it even when nobody is watching, especially when nobody is watching. That is the contract every professional golfer enters the moment they step onto a course. Gary Player does not see it as a suggestion. He sees it as the entire moral foundation of the sport. He has said for decades that your scorecard is not just a record of your shots. It is a reflection of your character. And in his view, some characters are not holding up. His frustration reached a boiling point recently, and the spark came from the biggest team stage in the sport. The 2025 Ryder Cup at Bethpage Black was supposed to represent the very best that professional golf offers. 2 continents, the finest players alive, millions watching worldwide. What actually unfolded left Player shaking his head in open disgust. He called it a shambles. He said it was the worst event in the world. He was not talking about the golf itself. He was talking about what happened in the stands and in the culture surrounding everything. Fans behaved with a total lack of respect. Vulgar personal abuse was screamed at European players. Rory McIlroy, one of the most recognizable athletes on earth, had to watch as a crowd turned on him in ways that had nothing to do with sport. An MC was reportedly leading obscene chants directly targeting the European team. A beer was thrown at McIlroy's wife. Player asked publicly what Ben Hogan would have said if he had witnessed it, what Arnold Palmer would have said. He pointed at the PGA of America for not responding with the speed and force that moment demanded. And then he made the point that goes to the center of his entire belief system. The integrity of the event was being traded for the spectacle of the event. Noise over honor, chaos over class. Once that trade gets made on the biggest stage, it sends a message to everyone watching. It says the rules of decorum no longer apply. And once that message goes out, everything underneath starts to shake. Which brings us to the 5 names. Number 5, Rory McIlroy. Take a breath before you react to that. Gary Player has never accused Rory McIlroy of cheating. He has never suggested Rory moved a ball or broke a rule with his hands. That is not the charge. But Player's definition of integrity is broader than most people expect. For him, integrity covers not just what you do with your equipment, but what you do with your talent and your opportunities. And on that front, he has been publicly frustrated with McIlroy for years. After Rory won the 2011 US Open at Congressional, it was not just a win, it was a demolition. He finished at 18 under par, winning by 8 shots in one of the most dominant major performances of his generation. The world was at his feet. Then he took a month off. To most reasonable people, that sounds like exactly what a young man deserves. Gary Player did not agree. He said publicly that a true champion should squeeze the most out of every opportunity, as if it might be the last. The window of peak athletic performance is narrow. Player believed McIlroy was choosing comfort when he could have been choosing legacy. Then came the 2013 Honda Classic. Rory was the #1 player in the world. After a triple bogey mid-round, he walked off the golf course. He withdrew. He said afterward that he had seen red and his emotions had gotten away from him. Player pointed to that moment as a failure of mental integrity. A man ranked at the top of the sport, walking away because the feelings became too much. Player has praised Rory's physical conditioning, his swing, his raw ability. He has called Rory's swing the best in the game, but he draws a sharp line between physical preparation and mental discipline. In his mind, the greats do not walk off courses. And Rory, in his view, has shown shown the cracks in that armor too many times. Back at the 2025 Ryder Cup, it was McIlroy who became the primary target of the crowd's worst behavior. The man player criticizes for not fully living up to his potential was also the man bearing the brunt of the sport's most public failure. Players saw both things at once. Number 4. John Daly. There is nobody in golf history who combined that much natural ability with that kind of lifestyle. The swing was a thing of force and beauty. The galleries loved him. He made the sport feel real and human. Gary Player has acknowledged all of it, and that acknowledgement is precisely what makes his criticism so cutting. Player's philosophy is clear. Talent is a loan from the game. You do not own it, you are entrusted with it. And your job is to honor that trust with discipline and commitment. Daly and Player's few looked at that trust and consistently chose another path. Player has stated directly that if Daly had worked like Tiger Woods, committed to avoiding the drinking, the smoking, and the late nights, he could have gone down as the greatest player who ever lived. Those are not throwaway words. Player was placing Daly's raw ceiling right next to the highest standard the sport has ever produced, and then saying he failed to reach it by his own choices. The official record tells its own story. 5 formal suspensions during his PGA Tour career, more than $65,000 in fines, 21 documented instances of failing to give best efforts, 11 conduct citations, 7 separate orders requiring counseling or rehabilitation. That is not a rough stretch. That is a long documented pattern. For Player, that pattern carries moral weight. It is a betrayal of the game and of every player who would have given everything to have the talent Daly was born with. Player himself does 1,000 sit-ups multiple times a week, even now in his late 80s. He does not drink. He does not smoke. The contrast with Daly is complete and deliberate. Number 3. Seve Ballesteros. Seve Ballesteros was something golf had never seen before. The imagination, the daring from impossible positions, the fire on the Ryder Cup stage, the connection with crowds across Europe. He was extraordinary, and nobody disputes that. Not even the people who questioned how he operated between the ropes. The accusations against Seve fall into a different category than anything else on this list. No HD footage, no official penalty, no disqualification on record. What exists is a consistent trail of concerns from peers that built up across an entire career. Multiple players throughout his time on tour raised questions about Seve's behavior in deep rough, specifically about a habit of using the head of a fairway wood to flatten the grass behind his ball before switching to an iron for the shot itself. Nothing formally proven, nothing penalized, but the accounts came from enough credible voices that they became part of how the locker room remembered him. Then there was the cough. Seve had a well-documented habit of producing a noticeable cough at moments when an opponent was approaching the top of their backswing in Ryder Cup matches. His rivals were openly skeptical about the timing. Slow play complaints followed him throughout his career. The cumulative picture was of a man who treated the competitive environment as something to be shaped and managed, not simply played in. His relationship with rules officials was its own story. He did not approach the rulebook as a fixed wall. He approached it as something to be negotiated with. In one notable exchange, when an official denied him a drop he wanted, Seve told the man to be careful because the decision might bite. Some people heard a fierce competitor holding his ground. Gary Player heard a man trying to intimidate the process. Player draws a firm line between using the rules as a strategic tool and using personal pressure to manipulate the people enforcing them. In his view, Seve crossed that line enough times to leave a permanent question mark. Number 2. Vijay Singh. If the Seve case exists in shades of gray, the Vijay Singh case has no gray in it at all. This is the purest violation in Player's entire framework. It comes down to 4 words: altering a scorecard. In 1985, at the Indonesian Open in Jakarta, a 22-year-old Vijay Singh was trying to make the cut. He was 1 stroke short of the line after his second round. Between the time he finished the round and the time he signed and submitted his scorecard, the score on one hole changed by a single stroke in the favorable direction. The Southeast Asian Golf Federation investigated. Playing partners gave testimony. The conclusion was that Singh had tampered with the card. He was disqualified and handed an indefinite ban from the regional tour. He has maintained for decades that it was a misunderstanding. But the investigative record from the time, including first-hand accounts from those who played alongside him, pointed toward a deliberate act. Player, who talks often about the quiet moments in golf where character is tested with no audience, sees the scorecard as sacred. It is your sworn statement about what actually happened on the course. Altering it is not a lapse in judgment. It is premeditated fraud. Full stop. What is remarkable is what came after. Singh rebuilt from nothing. He qualified back onto the European Tour, built his game methodically, and eventually became one of the dominant forces in the sport. 3 majors. World number 1. 9 wins in 2004 alone. All of it is real, but in Player's world, none of it wipes the original entry from the record. In a sport built on personal honesty, a single verified dishonesty marks you permanently. Every trophy earned after Jakarta was earned by a man whose integrity had already been tested and failed the test. The scorecard reveals character, player believes, and what Singh's card revealed in 1985 never fully went away. Number 1. Patrick Reed. This is the name that defines the integrity debate in modern professional golf. Reed's controversies are recent, fully documented in high definition, and they happened in an age where every moment on a golf course is watched by thousands of eyes in real time. For Gary Player, Reed represents the clearest living example of a golfer treating the rules not as a moral code, but as a technical maze to survive. In December 2019, at the Hero World Challenge in the Bahamas, Reed was in a sandy waste area on the 11th hole during the third round. Television cameras caught what happened with complete clarity. During practice swings, Reed's clubhead displaced sand directly behind his ball on 2 separate occasions, smoothing the surface and improving conditions for his shot. Rule 8.1a is explicit. A player cannot remove or press down sand in a way that improves the lie. Officials had no real choice. They assessed a 2-stroke penalty, turning his bogey into a triple bogey 8. What followed made it worse. Reed claimed the camera angle was misleading. He argued his club was further from the ball than it appeared, and that he felt no drag through the sand. But the footage was the footage. Greg Norman said publicly he was repulsed and took the extraordinary step of texting a tour official in real time during the broadcast to make certain the incident was being reviewed. Cameron Smith and other professionals reacted with open disapproval. The explanations went nowhere. At the 2021 Farmers Insurance Open, Reed claimed his ball was embedded and eligible for a free drop. He then picked the ball up before any independent rules official arrived to verify his assessment. The reaction from fellow players was immediate and skeptical. Why not wait the extra minute for someone independent to confirm the lie? No satisfying answer came. Then in 2023 at the Dubai Desert Classic, his ball ended up lodged in a palm tree high above the ground. Reed stated with complete certainty that the ball in the tree was his, identifying it by its specific markings while standing far below. Commentators and fans pushed back hard. If the ball is unreachable, the certainty being claimed is physically impossible. The ridicule was widespread and came from multiple directions at once. Player's view cuts through every technical argument. He has said that in his era, if you could not reach a ball to confirm it was yours, you declared it lost. Not because the rulebook forced your hand, but because protecting the appearance of honesty was worth more than saving a stroke. Reed's consistent use of intent arguments, camera angles, and personal certainty as defensive tools is exactly what Player means when he says the spirit of the game has been abandoned in favor of its technicalities. Now here is where this story becomes genuinely complicated. Gary Player demands the highest integrity from everyone around him. It is central to his entire public identity, but his own career carries allegations from credible voices. At the 1974 Open Championship at Royal Lytham, persistent whispers followed his win after his caddy found his tee shot in thick rough with barely a minute of search time remaining. In what witnesses described as a surprisingly favorable lie, Player has denied everything about that for 50 years. Then at the 1983 Skins game, Tom Watson privately and directly accused Player of removing a rooted leaf from behind his ball, a clear rules violation. Player called the charge heinous. Watson's words at the time made clear he was not alone in what he had observed. This does not cancel Player's points about the 5 men on this list. The evidence on those cases stands independently. But the paradox is real. The loudest integrity voice in golf is a man whose own greatest victories have been followed by persistent allegations from credible people. That complexity does not make Player wrong. It makes the conversation about honesty in sport that much messier and harder to fully resolve than any single voice can handle. And yet golf keeps asking the same question Player has been asking for 7 decades. Can the game protect what makes it unlike anything else? The self-policing, the conscience in the rough. The scorecard is a statement of who you are. Reed moved sand and blamed the angle. Singh changed a number in a Jakarta clubhouse. Seve bent the gamesmanship envelope until it nearly tore. Daly squandered a talent that Player believed was equal to anyone who ever played. McIlroy, by Player's measurement, has not yet matched his ability with the mental discipline those gifts demand. 5 different men, 5 different failures, all measured against the same standard built not on rules alone, but on something older and quieter than any rulebook. Golf is still worth protecting. Players still call penalties on themselves every day at every level of the game. The sport still carries more integrity in its bones than almost anything else in global athletics. The question is whether the people inside it love it enough to fight for that foundation when it starts to crack. The 2025 Ryder Cup showed what it looks like when the answer is no. Players saw it clearly, he named it plainly, and he refused to let anyone pretend it was acceptable. Now you have to. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling us which of these 5 names surprised you the most.